talking today about a really important tool that almond growers and PCAs actually have at their disposal and have had for some time. But thinking about navel orangeworm now and last year when it was, of course, especially bad, this tool could be very useful in terms of looking at the economics of an integrated pest management program. Brittany, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, great to have you here today. So, Brittany, can you tell me what the tool actually allows its users to explore? Why could it really be an important one for these growers and consultants?
Yeah, so this is a tool that sort of came to being because was thinking a lot about navel orangeworm management and these different IPM programs, and a lot of times we think about navel orangeworm management as like separate things. Like we have pesticide application, we have winter sanitation, you could maybe use mating disruption. But I thought it was really important to recognize that you really put all of those components together to control that navel orangeworm and those damage rates at the end of the year. And so I wanted there to be a tool for growers to be able to compare the costs of an entire IPM program with the corresponding benefits that would come out of it. So for example, maybe if you use mating disruption in addition to whatever you're currently using for an IPM program, you're going to reduce your damage rates. And that makes, a difference for your marketable yield that actually gets processed at the handler. And then also a lot of times you end up getting premiums for having higher quality nuts. And so I wanted there to be a tool that growers and PCAs could use to actually, compare those economic costs and benefits. Because I think last year we saw a little bit of this where growers were really concerned about, the low prices of almonds. And I think we really cut back on some winter sanitation, and we saw the consequences of that. So we really need to be aware of thinking about these things. I always say, we need to think about it as profit maximization, not necessarily cost minimization, right? So sometimes you have to spend more, but it has more benefit in terms of yield and that reduction in damage rates.
Definitely. And that's kind of what it shows on the calculator. You might implement what you're doing right now, and then it will show you a new integrated pest management plan that might be more in terms of cost, but it would be more beneficial, like you said, in the long run. Can you explain how it looks simple enough to use? How do growers and PCAs actually use this tool online?
Yeah, so we tried to make it honestly as simple as possible. So in some respects, it seems a little bit too simple, but for those who want to get into some of like the nitty gritty of the costs that we've kind of come up with, there is a spreadsheet that you can download that has a lot more information. But essentially, what a grower or PCA would do is they're going to input a couple of basic inputs. So, what the expected price of almonds is going to be at harvest, and what an expected yield is going to be for that almond orchard that you're thinking about. And then you can go down a little bit and you can input your actual costs of all of these different IPM practices. So we have a slot for winter sanitation. The current amount that we have is right about $300 an acre for kind of a baseline level, but folks that know what their winter sanitation costs can plug in their own costs. We have a slot for mating disruption. So if you're paying for mating disruption, and then a slot for how much you're paying for pesticide applications. And again, each of those, we have sort of these baseline values that we've just plugged in as examples. But then if growers know their own costs per acre, or they want to edit our costs that we have that spreadsheet, like I said. And then in the spreadsheet, you can get down to, what your cost of labor per hour is if you want to edit that from what we had, or, the number of hours per acre you're running your tree shaker or your sweeper blower. You can get into all of those different things. So essentially you plug in all of these costs, and then you also, so you plug them in for, like you said, a current IPM program. And then the idea is that you'd think about what you're currently doing and then maybe consider adding something or changing something about your IPM program, whether that's adding mating disruption, adding another pesticide application, taking away a pesticide application, something like that. And then, so then you also have to input what you would expect your damage rates at the time of harvest to be for those specific IPM programs. So maybe traditionally what your damage rates have been using one IPM program. And then if you think you can lower them a little bit using this new IPM program, you'd plug in that different damage rate. And so then those are the inputs that you plug in. And then what the calculator does is, using those damage rates and that initial expected yield that you entered, it calculates your expected marketable yield. So obviously, if you have higher damage rates, you're going to lose more of that expected yield. And then it also calculates a premium quality discount, or it calculates a premium or deduction for quality related based on your damage rate. So, and this is something that we took from Blue Diamond's 2023 crop delivery schedule. So it's taken straight from Blue Diamond. And so then based on those IPM practices and your expected rejects, you have a certain almond price per pound that you're getting, a certain yield, and then you can compare, the calculator compares which one is going to get you the higher total expected net revenues based on those two IPM programs. So you can kind of, alter things a little bit. If you think your damage rate's going to be lower or higher with one program or another, you can plug those in and see what happens to that total expected net revenue.